everyone, I'm Lucinda Giuliani, and in this video, I'm going to present a topic about traditional clothing Riau Malay wedding attire. Before we begin, let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever wondered why traditional wedding clothing is so important in many cultures? Traditional attire is more than just clothing. It reflects a community culture's identity, history, and values. In this presentation, we will explore the traditional wedding attire of the Riau Malay community, compare it with British wedding attire, and examine it from a global culture perspective. So, let's get started. The learning objectives of these lessons are divided into 4 main points. First, students are expected to identify vocabulary related to traditional wedding attire. Second, students should be able to describe Riau Malay wedding clothing in English. Third, students are expected to compare local, target, and global wedding traditions, especially between Riau Malay wedding attire, British wedding attire, and global fashion wedding styles. And the last, this lesson aims to help students develop intercultural awareness through cultural comparisons so that they understand that clothing is not only about fashions but also about identity, beliefs, and values. Before discussing the cultures, I would like to explain why traditional clothing matters. Traditional wedding attire is an important cultural symbol because it reflects the identity, tradition, and values of a community. It's not only decorative but also meaningful. The colors, fabrics, accessories, and ornaments often carry cultural messages. In many societies, wedding attire represents family honor, social status, blessings, and respect for tradition. That is why traditional clothing is a meaningful topic in ELT. By learning about wedding attire, students do not only learn vocabulary but also learn how culture is expressed through visual symbols and social practice. In these lessons, I choose traditional wedding attire as my main topic. The topics that will be discussed include culture, covering local, target, and global perspective, vocabulary related to wedding attire, communication through describing and comparing cultures, and intercultural communicative competence. Now, I will move to the local culture, which is Riau Malay wedding attire. In terms of cultural facts, this attire is a form of traditional ceremonial clothing worn in Malay wedding ceremonies. It's usually made of songket fabric, decorated with gold accessories, and complete with items such as a ring and a traditional headpiece. These elements make it an important symbol of Malay identity. In terms of values, it reflects respect, family honor, and unity. In terms of belief, it symbolizes dignity and blessings in marriage. In terms of attitudes, it shows pride in preserving cultural heritage. Finally, in terms of practice, Riau Malay wedding attire is worn during traditional marriage ceremonies as an important part of the wedding ritual. The information on this slide is based on YouTube P4 Jakarta Timur 2023 and Riau Online 2023. Having learned about Riau Malay wedding attire, let us now explore British wedding attire as the target culture. First, in terms cultural facts, British wedding attire usually includes a white wedding gown for the bride and a morning suite or a formal suite for the groom. Wedding ceremonies are commonly held in church or civil venues. In terms of cultural values, British wedding attire reflects purity, elegance, commitment, and family tradition. And then in terms of cultural practice, British weddings often include walking down the aisle, exchanging wedding vows, exchanging wedding rings, and holding a church or civil wedding ceremony. The information on this slide is based on the Royal Family YouTube and Anglotopia 2024. After understanding the characteristic of British wedding attire, we can now compare it with Riau Malay wedding attire to identify their similarities and differences. First, let's look at the similarities. Both traditions have special wedding attire, symbolize marriage, involve family participation, and are worn during traditional or formal wedding ceremonies. Although the styles are different, both cultures use wedding attire to represent important cultural values. Now let's move to the differences. In British weddings, the bride usually wears a white gown with animal accessories, while the fabrics commonly used are satin and lace, giving a simpler and more elegant appearance. In contrast, Riau Malay wedding attire features gold songket attire, rich ornaments and accessories, and is made from songket and other woven fabrics, giving it a more elaborate and ceremonial appearance. The comparison on this slide is based on YouTube for Jakarta Timur 2023 and Anglotopia 2024. Besides local and target cultures, these lessons also introduce a global culture perspective through multiculturalism in modern weddings. This slide shows how wedding attire has developed from traditional to modern, fusion, and finally global style. Today, people from different cultural backgrounds often combine tradition while maintaining their own cultural identities. Some examples include cross-cultural weddings, traditional Malay attire combined with modern elements, and the adaptation of traditional and contemporary wedding style. From an intercultural communication perspective, multiculturalism encourages people to understand different cultures, respect cultural diversity, develop intercultural communication skills, and preserve local tradition while participating in a global society. After discussing the three cultural perspectives, this slide summarizes their main characteristics. Starting with the local culture, Riau Malay wedding attire is characterized by gold colors, songket fabric, and symbolic ornaments, which represent Malay identity and tradition. The target culture, represented by British wedding attire, is known for its white wedding gown, satin fabric, and minimal accessories, reflecting a simple and elegant style. Meanwhile, the global culture emphasizes fusion styles, where different colors, fabrics, and cultural elements are creatively combined. Overall, this comparison shows that each culture has its own unique characteristic, while all of them use wedding attire to express cultural identity and celebrate marriage. This slide highlights the main similarities and differences among the three culture perspectives. Starting with the similarities, all three cultures have special wedding attire, symbolize marriage, involve family participation, and are worn during wedding ceremonies. In contrast, British wedding attire is typically represented by a white wedding gown, a simple design, and a bridal bouquet. Meanwhile, global wedding attire emphasizes fusion style, innovation, and personalization, allowing couples to combine different cultural and modern elements. These differences show how each culture expresses its own identity and tradition through wedding attire. From the comparison of local, target, and global cultures, we can gain several important intercultural insights. Although wedding attire differs in style and appearance, each tradition expresses love, cultural identity, and respect for tradition. Respect means honoring different cultural expressions and traditions without judging one as better than another. Understanding means recognizing that people from different cultures may have different wedding customs, but they also share common values and purposes. Finally, appreciation encourages us to value and richness of cultural diversity and see it as an opportunity to learn from one another. This insight helps students develop intercultural awareness while learning English through cultural topics. Building on these intercultural insights, this topic also helps students develop intercultural communicative competence. Knowledge is developed as students learn about Riau Malay, British, and global wedding tradition. Attitudes are developed by encouraging students to respect cultural diversity in all its forms. Skills are developed as students compare different cultures and communicate appropriately in English. Critical cultural awareness is developed by encouraging students to reflect on the similarities and differences between cultures. After learning about the three cultural perspectives, students begin the lessons with a vocabulary activity. In this activity, students observe pictures of wedding attire items and match them with the correct English vocabulary. Through this activity, students expand their vocabulary while becoming more familiar with the cultural elements found in traditional wedding attire. It also helps develop vocabulary building and cultural awareness. In the second activity, students work in pairs or small groups to compare Riau Malay and British wedding attire. They discuss the similarities, the differences, and the cultural values reflected in each tradition. This activity develops students' speaking skills, critical thinking, and intercultural awareness. The final activity is a mini project entitled My Traditional Wedding Attire. Students create a poster about traditional wedding attire and present it in English. After that, they join a class discussion to share their cultural findings. Through this project, students develop creativity, communication skills, and cultural reflection by comparing and appreciating different wedding traditions. To support these lessons, I have included several digital resources, including YouTube videos and website references. Students can use these resources to learn more about Riau Malay wedding attire, British wedding traditions, and global wedding cultures. To conclude these presentations, I would like to end with a short reflections. The first question, what intercultural knowledge did I gain? Through this topic, I learned that wedding attire reflects the identity, belief, values, and tradition of different cultures. The second question, how does this topic promote intercultural awareness? It encourages students to appreciate cultural diversity and respect the tradition of others. And the last questions, why should local, target, and global cultures be integrated into ALT? Because learning English is not only about language, but also about understanding different cultures and communicating respectfully in a global society. That concludes my presentation. I'm Lucinda Giuliani. Thank you for your attention. I hope this presentation has helped you better understand how local, target, and global cultures can be integrated into English language teaching. Bye-bye!